Hello and welcome back to the Money Bear podcast. I'm your host, Chloe Daniels, better known as Clo Bare Money Coach. Do I need to keep doing that in the beginning? What do you guys think? You tell me. But today is our quick tip episode. And in the quick tip, I usually give you a little life update if I have any. And then we do a quick tip. I want to talk about, I was just on a podcast recently for Marcus Garrett, and it's coming out soon, where we were talking about one of our latest milestones as Clo Bare LLC. We have a $500,000 course now. So the course, the Lazy Investors course, has had more than $500,000 in sales in about a year and a half, which is so cool and crazy. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what I would do if I was starting a business over from scratch today. So that if you guys are interested in that, if you're into the side hustle content, which our side hustle content on the blog does really well when we send out emails and things that's the kind of stuff you guys like to click on. So I figured let's go ahead and give the people what they want and talk about my own journey as a business owner. So we will be talking about that right after our little life update. So life update, I don't think I have a ton to update folks on. That's a lie. There's this thing that happened and I'm slightly embarrassed to share / excited about it / nervous about it. I actually am working with a empowerment coach who specializes in helping women overcome mental blocks around finding love and feeling worthy and feeling like they can attract the kind of love in their life that they want. And the reason I say I'm slightly embarrassed is because it's not something I would normally do. I did work with a spiritual coach last year, Christina, who I love, and she helped me out in a lot of ways. But I still have a lot of mental blocks and barriers in place in my brain around money. And sometimes those can't be totally addressed in therapy. I'm doing therapy as well. So it's kind of like I'm taking a two-pronged approach. But she worked with Levin, who I love. And you guys have listened to Levin's podcast episode as well. And Levin just DM'd me one day and was like, Chloe, you are worthy of love. And it was out of the blue. And I was like, hi, Levin. Ooh, thank you. And she's like, you need to work with my love coach, my empowerment coach, sent me a link to Jackie Lore. And she was like, listen, your content lately just screams that you need love. And I was like, fair enough. So I booked the discovery call and I was like, what do I have to lose at this point? Clearly the way that I've been going about things hasn't been working for me. And I do have these mental blocks in place, this feeling of not being worthy, even though there's I can picture what I want. I can picture what I'm looking for. I know what I logically quote unquote deserve. But when it comes to reality and when it comes to being in a dating experience and going out with people, that's not always reflected. So when I talked to Jackie today on our discovery call, I was honest about my skepticism about even working with somebody, and it's not cheap. It's very expensive. So more expensive than my therapy is going to be. Yeah, more expensive than my therapy. And it's only a 3-month commitment. So I was like, you know what do I got to lose? What's the point in having money if you don't spend it on stuff that brings you to the next level, that brings you joy, that et cetera, et cetera. So I keep telling myself it's an investment in my happiness. It's an investment in my happiness. But what made me go ahead and hire Jackie is, one, what I'm doing isn't working. The way I've been approaching things has gotten me to where I am. And even though things are getting slightly better, I don't want another 10 years of adjusting and fixing things and waiting to essentially find my person. I do want to find my person, and I want to set myself up for success. And going about things the same way I always have, that's not really ideal, is it? That's not efficient. I wouldn't recommend that to somebody doing that with their money. So why am I happy settling with that in something that is important to me? I do want to find my person. So your girl has a love coach. She's got a love doctor. I'm just kidding. I'm sure Jackie wouldn't enjoy being called a love doctor, or I think she'd probably find it funny. But yeah, I'm really nervous about it. I don't know if I should feel silly. I think hiring a coach is what we do when we need help. And therapy is something I'm also doing. So I'm kind of just, I guess, diving into this, which is interesting because I really have not prioritized my love life at all, ever, probably. Well, that's not true. At least in the last 5 years, I have not prioritized my love life. And so to make this investment into it and kind of approach it like I've approached my business, I mean, let's see what happens, right? So I will take you guys along in that journey. I will share these things with you. And an update in therapy, things are going really well. I am very thankful for my therapist. As you guys know, last week I had shared that something very big and explosive happened in my personal life that was causing me a lot of hurt and pain, and that has not been resolved. That is still going on. I don't think it will be resolved anytime soon. But in doing EMDR with my therapist, which I can't remember exactly what EMDR stands for. I've done EMDR before, but EMDR is a processing technique that uses eye movement. And I want to say EMDR stands for like eye movement desensitization R, whatever R stands for. Eye movement desensitization. I could just Google this. All right, I'm going to do it for you guys because you might be listening to this while driving and you're like, Chloe, what is it? EMDR is, I got 3 out of the words right, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And that last reprocessing is huge because that's essentially what we're doing is we're taking old feelings, old experiences, and we're going through and reorganizing what we think about them, essentially, is the way that my therapist described it. And it's been a couple of years since I did EMDR for the trauma that I went through in China. So I've been asking her a lot about it, and it's been really good. We're doing EMDR on stuff that I feel like I need to reprocess. And sometimes that means doing EMDR on like reprocessing things that happened to me as a kid, relationships I've been in the past, things that, if something keeps showing up in my dreams, even if I feel like I'm over it, I am doing that. I'm doing EMDR on that person or that thought or that memory. And it's been really helpful to start making new connections and kind of reorganize my thoughts to better understand why I have some of the beliefs that I do and how to kind of develop some new beliefs. So I do kind of feel like doing therapy in conjunction with a love coach could be really good for me. And I am excited to continue learning about myself, I guess, and do better, I guess, more efficient. Better sounds judgmental, and I'm not trying to be judgmental about it, about myself. I'm really trying to be nice to myself. And you can see one of the things I've been doing to be nice to myself is buying myself ridiculously beautiful flowers. Check those out in the background. But yeah, that's kind of what's been going on. So Logan's over there in the corner, just, scratching away. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but that's what's going on with me. If you're somebody who struggles with emotional regulation or processing things, I definitely recommend checking out an EMDR certified therapist. EMDR has been life-changing for me. And there's just these tiny little connections that I'm making now that have been really helpful. Like one of them was the situation that I am in that, like I mentioned last week, I started to recognize that a lot of the things that this person blames me for or doesn't like about me or thinks I need to change, a lot of the things that this person has been telling me to change about myself or work on about myself are all things that exist because of this person. And making that connection and realizing that that was a truth for me really took off a lot of shame and guilt and feeling like I was a bad person. And I feel like cerebrally, I knew that before, but to really make this deep, clear, specific connection was really helpful for me. So I know I'm vague about what happened because like this is one thing I do want to keep private. I'd share a lot of things, but in terms of what happened in my past or in the past couple of weeks, yeah, we're going to keep that private for now. So anyway, I'm doing better on all accounts. I am feeling okay. I am dealing with the grief. I am dealing with the hole that is in my heart from losing this person right now. And I'm making a lot of strides that are in the name of my own happiness. So that's a good place to be, right? And I am doing happier. I am doing happier. Is that a right word? I don't know. Having nice weather helps. Like San Diego's been significantly better since the hurricane. It's been super sunny every day. And yeah, I'm just happy to be here. So all right, let's get into one of my favorite topics of all time. Let me move my microphone really fast because I'm like leaning forward. And I want to talk to you about building a business. Before we get started, friendly reminder that a lot of what I'm about to tell you, we have available in other formats too. So if you're like, I want to hear more about Chloe's story, I want to hear about her money journey and how did she scale her business so quickly? We've got all of that and more inside of our free money guide. So if you haven't grabbed it yet, there's a reason I keep going back to it. There's a reason I keep promoting it. It's because it has so much good stuff inside of it. So that's at moneyrightguide.com, right as in you are correct. So moneyrightguide.com. All right, let's get to it. So I am now a multi-six-figure business owner. We have made over $600,000 in sales. I haven't calculated the new total, but I think we are creeping up to over $700,000 in revenue since we launched in 2021. And that's really cool. Now, mind you, the Lazy Investors course itself did not launch until December 2021. And that is the course that just hit over $500,000 in revenue all by itself, which is really cool because when I poured my heart and soul into it, and I really didn't know how it was going to do. I didn't know how it was going to be received. I didn't know if it was going to help people. I was pretty sure it was going to help people because my one-on-one coaching had helped people a lot. But I was really scared putting that out into the world. And it has just been incredible feedback and incredible transformations happening for my students. And I feel super, super lucky that not only do I get to make money doing something that I love, but the thing that I love also really helps people. That has been the biggest blessing in my life. So how would I do it if I was starting over today? Done. Elevate. Can we do like a done sound? Elevates my podcast team. And anytime you guys hear me shout them out, that's who I'm talking about. But if I was starting over today, I would first pick the social media platform that I wanted to show up on. So it doesn't even have to be a social media platform. So if you're trying to consider like, where does it make sense for me to start creating content or promoting ads or writing blog posts, doing a podcast, you first have to ask yourself, where is my audience? Where are the people that I am trying to serve at? Okay. For me, that's Instagram. For me, my people are on Instagram. Sure, some of my people are on TikTok. Some of my people are on the podcast. Some of my people are on the blog. But when it comes to the kind of content I like to create and how I like to show up, it's on Instagram. So I would not try to spread myself thin between multiple different platforms. Now, with that being said, things like Twitter and TikTok are very easy to repurpose content onto. So I would still use those, but my main bread and butter would be focusing on Instagram. So if you are at that stage of, okay, where do I want to show up? Where do I want to start promoting myself, promoting my products, promoting whatever it is that I want to do, sharing education about whatever it is I want to do, you first have to ask yourself, where are my people? Now, I guess as I'm saying this, I skipped a step. So let's go to step 0. The first thing that you have to do as a new business owner is you have to answer the question, what problem am I trying to solve? Okay. My problem, I am trying to get people who think that investing is complicated invested. I am trying to get women specifically empowered to make their own money decisions. I am transforming the overwhelmed, the confused, the worried into confident money managers. That is the problem that I am solving, is the confusion and lack of education around investing in the stock market. More specifically than that, I'm also addressing this idea that it's overwhelming and complicated and hard. And I'm teaching it to you in the lazy way, the way that anybody can do it, the way that is automated, the way that you will actually stick to, because it's lazy, because you don't have to do that much once you've learned the processes and put those systems in place. That's the problems and the solutions that I am working towards. And when I first started creating content on the space and had decided that I wanted to put content out there about money back in 2021, I tried to do a little bit of everything. I was doing a little bit of budgeting, a little bit of debt payoff, a little bit of student loan forgiveness, a little bit of how to make more money, a little bit of investing, and more as I discovered what I really liked talking about and what was really needed in the space. I started to niche down into really, what do people come to me for? Most of the time, they come to me for wealth building through the stock market. Now, sometimes that wealth building takes the form of increasing income. We don't have any products on how to increase income yet, but that's something we're definitely moving into. But notice, since 2021, I have really only focused on teaching people how to invest. If I tried at that time to teach people how to invest, teach people how to increase their income, teach people how to budget, teach people how to pay off debt, teach people how to get over there or to improve their credit score and things like that, I would have been spread so thin that there's really no way to stand out. If I'm doing a little bit of everything, how do you know what I really do and what I really specialize and can solve this problem for you? So really getting clear on, what do I want to do? Who do I want to serve? What problem am I solving? That's huge. And if you're like, I don't know what problem I'm solving, then you got to ask yourself, is this a viable option? Is this a viable product? Is this something that people actually need? Because if you don't know what problem you're solving, then I would ask, is this a needed product in the space? And I think so many of us, when we're thinking about starting a business, we get so excited about the idea and the idea of the product that we've dreamt up overnight that we forget to ask ourselves, is this something that people need? Is this something that people want? Is this something that actually solves a problem? And I remember our story and our interview with Jeremy from Personal Finance Club, which I'll put a link to it in the show notes. He, for the first several years, he had created a business that no one wanted. No one wanted. So he was struggling to make sales. If I remember correctly, it was like a product to help landlords build better websites. But the landlords were not interested in building better websites. The building better websites did not serve them. They did not care. What they cared about was getting more leads for their rental units. They wanted more people applying to their rental units. And even though he was told that was the problem for years, he ignored it. He didn't address it. He just said, no, I know what you need. You need a better website. And that's obviously they didn't. So sales weren't doing great. And until he decided, you know what, I'm going to help match landlords up with renters. And boom, his business took off. And a few years later, he was able to sell it for multiple millions. And that's Jeremy as we know him. So you've got to get clear and you've got to humble yourself to, what is the actual problem here and how do I solve it? So that's step number one. Step number two, we already covered, is decide how you want to show up on the internet. Now, there are pros and cons to everything. And I guess it doesn't have to be the internet. I'm obviously biased towards the internet. And if I were doing it today, I would use Instagram all over again. I know some people think that it's hard to grow on Instagram right now. And that's true. It is hard to grow on Instagram. But knowing what I know now, I know how to do it. I know how to make it happen. Like if I had to start from ground zero, which knock on wood, I don't want to start from ground zero today unless it's a new business, I'd go right back to good old Instagram. And I would probably dive into paid traffic sooner than I did this time around. So I know sooner than I did this time around probably feels like, okay, Chloe, this was really fast for you. You went from a $0 business to a nearly $700,000 business in a year and a half. But we didn't do any paid traffic until about a year into the business. And that added some stress for the months where I probably could have taken the time to learn and hired a coach sooner. But I waited until we were already in a situation where I was like, Instagram hates us right now. We're not bringing in any traffic. We got no new faces. My audience is getting tired of hearing about our products. So that's when I brought in a coach and was like, how do we bring in more traffic? How do I get more people in to see what we have available and see if our product solves their problem? So that's been huge for scaling, is recognizing when to say uncle and hire a coach. And that is number 3. What I would do next is hire a coach sooner. So for those of you who have listened to my podcast episode with Nathalia, which again, I'll leave a link to that in the show notes. Nathalia from I Speak Social is my business coach. She is my go-to girl. I freaking love Nathalia, and we'll get her on this podcast again soon. But I feel like I credit a lot of my success and growth and scaling to her, because she gave me the roadmap. She gave me the blueprint. And to be fair, I was very coachable. I did all the things. I didn't pay her and then do nothing. I took everything she said to heart and I freaking implemented it. And that, if you are ready to really dive in, you are ready to solve problems, you are ready to scale quickly, you got to have a coach. You got to have somebody in your corner who is helping you pave the way, because they've been there before. They've built businesses before. They know the problems you're going to face. They know what you need to do in order to launch yourself off into wherever it is that you're trying to go. And so I think I waited about 10 months before hiring her and doing her course. If I could do it all over again, I would have probably bought her course on day one. Like, honestly, if I could do it all over again, I would have purchased her I Speak Social course, which was more money than I had ever invested in my business ever at that point. It was like almost $2,000. I wish I had just said, you know what? This is an investment in my future. I am going to buy this now and I'm going to start implementing what I've learned now. So it would have saved me a lot of headache in the end. Now, granted, everything worked out, because a year and a half later, we're on our way to $1 million business, but I was so burnt out by the time I hired Nathalia. So in 2021, I had spent months doing one-on-one coaching, and that was really my only source of income. And by October, I quit my job to do money coaching full time, but I had 60 clients in 1 month. 60. The month I quit my job, I had 60 one-on-one clients, most of which were 2-hour sessions. When I tell you, I could barely speak at the end of the first week. And I was doing this on nights. I was doing this on weekends. I was doing this all the time. I felt sick. I felt drained. I remember questioning if quitting my job was the right thing to do, because I was so exhausted. And I woke up every morning just like, oh my God, how many calls do I have today? And it was every single day. Now I only take calls on Wednesdays. Like, I've got so much more balance now, but it's because I guess I had to go through some of that in order to know what I want to do now. So again, I would have hired a coach much sooner, because I wouldn't have gone through the same pains. Now, granted, I'm sure there still would have been growing pains. They just would have been different. And I would have had help along the way. So now I work with Nathalia one-on-one. I pay her every single month. She's like almost as much as my mortgage, but it's just a reinvestment back into the business. And I just said mortgage. I don't have a mortgage, guys. My rent. That's what I meant to say. So I would have done that sooner. I would have even been willing to go into credit card debt to do that sooner, because the investment was so worth it. So that's step number 3. Let's revisit the steps. So number 1 is understand what problem you're trying to solve. Number 2, understand where you want to show up in the space. Is that Instagram? Is it the internet? Is it in person? Is it like, what's your zone of genius? What do you like doing? What do you want to do? Number 3, hire a coach as soon as possible. That's 100% what I would have done. And I would have hired Nathalia. Now, a note on that. There are a lot of bad business coaches out there too. So you got to be careful on who you hire. You got to do your due diligence and make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. I know a lot of people want to go straight into one-on-one coaching with a coach, but often that's the most expensive way to get the help that you need. So books and courses and things like that are fantastic options. If you're interested in an online business, I highly recommend ordering the Secrets Trilogy from Russell Brunson. Russell Brunson's a little bit on the hustle porn side. I will not deny that, but his education's really good. So take what you need from it. And I would read .com Secrets by Russell Brunson, and I would read Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson, and then Traffic Secrets. So if you're at all interested in doing something similar to what I do, or showing up in the online space, having a membership, something along those lines, highly recommend that book set. And that's cheap way for you to get started. So one of his books is like, if you only order .com secrets, the book is free and then you only pay for shipping, which I think is like $10. You can buy the whole box set, which I ended up ordering one of the books for free. And then I eventually went back and bought the whole box set because I was like, I want this workbook, even though I don't even use the workbook, but I wanted more education because I got so much out of that free book. So the trilogy set, I want to say it's like $120, maybe $140. So well worth the investment if you're not ready to be like, I don't even know what I want to do. I don't want to spend $1,000 on a course or $2,000 on a course. I hear you. I see you. Get the free book, download that, and then listen to his podcast or listen to whoever you resonate with business coaching wise. There are tons of free resources out there. The paid versions are often just different delivery systems. So everything you can learn in the free book is the exact same stuff he would do in a course or the exact same stuff he would do in coaching. The delivery method is different. So 1, you're reading a book, or 2, you're listening to a podcast, or 3, you're going through and working on individual modules, maybe getting some live hands-on support. And then 4, obviously doing one-on-one coaching is the most touch point you could possibly have. So usually the more touch point, the more time you have with a person, the more on hands-on support, the more expensive it's going to be. It's just kind of how it works, right? So highly recommend that education if you're interested in this space. So 3 was hire help or hire a coach. And 4, I would say focus on one thing. So kind of similar to when picking a platform on how you want to show up, how you want to find your audience, is focus on one thing. It's so easy to get distracted with shiny object syndrome. I absolutely have undiagnosed ADHD. I'm planning on going to a doctor this year actually to finally get medicated for it or finally see what options I have to manage it a little bit better, because becoming a business owner has really shown me just how much I do have ADHD. But even if you don't have ADHD, it is so easy to have shiny object syndrome when you're starting a new business because it's so exciting. You can't wait to launch something new and put out a new guide, start a podcast, create a blog, show up on TikTok and Instagram, do all these things, but it's a huge recipe for burnout. And so one of the things that I learned through my coaching is focus on one thing, make that thing as good as you can make it, and then let it go. Then you can move on to the next thing. So if you've been following me closely, I don't think anybody's probably following me this closely to know what I do on the back end, but the only product I had until a few months ago, like 2 months ago, was the Lazy Investors course. That was the only way to work with me for almost a year and a half. And only now do we have other products. It was a year and a half of working on improving the Lazy Investors course, on improving our messaging around it, of messing with the funnel, of figuring out what's working, what's not working. And only then, when I was like, all right, this is in a really good place, did we then branch out and create something new. So now we have the Lazy Wealth Planner that allows you to organize your finances. We've got a money guide for couples. We've got a Money Master boot camp. We've got all these different things now, but we didn't have those 6 months ago because I needed to spend time focusing on the one thing and really perfecting my one product. And it shows. I mean, our refund rate is almost non-existent. People love the course. They love the community. And my new products as well have been doing really well because I was able to give all my attention to those things. So that's what I'd say. Pick one thing. I'm not even joking. One thing, one funnel. And if you don't know what a funnel is, it's a way to market something. But again, if you're interested in the online space, you have to have a funnel. So get that .com secrets, get expert secrets, join Nathalia's course, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, focus on one thing. I know Russell Brunson says, focus on one funnel until it's $1 million funnel. Nathalia has said focus on one funnel for a year or until it's $1 million funnel, whichever one comes first. And we only have one funnel, but we have multiple products now that build off of that funnel. So yeah, it's huge being able to focus and hone in on something. Look at Deli-Ann, the money coach. Deli-Ann's one of my closest friends. She's got a $2 million course, probably almost a $3 million course now. And that's the only product she has. At least the last time I checked, which we were just chatting a couple of days ago, she only has one paid product. And that is her Slay the Stock Market course. That is it. Period. End of story. There's no wealth planner. There's no guide that you have to pay for. There's no, anything else. She's got that one course, period, end of story. And we've all seen her explosive growth, if you've been paying attention to Delianne as well, who's my girl. I fucking love Delianne. And I'm actually visiting her in Portugal soon. So in October. Anyway, so that's step number 4. All right, I'm going to give one more tip because this is huge. And this is what I wish I had learned immediately because it would have saved me a lot of mental pain, a lot of mental health struggles as well. I know you guys have, if you've been around for a while, you've probably seen my emails and posts talking about like comparison and imposter syndrome and feeling like I'm not enough, feeling like I'm not doing enough. I wish that I had stopped paying attention to what everyone else was doing immediately. I never want to say that I wish I hadn't had engaged in the finance community or made friends in the finance community or gone to FinCon and things like that. But doing that caused me to really compare myself for the first year, at least, if not the first 2 years, all of 2021, all of 2022, I was constantly comparing myself to other people. And it was awful. Like there were times when I would spend hours looking at everybody else's content, seeing how much better they were doing than me, seeing what they were doing differently, thinking that I needed to change how I was showing up in space to do better and show up more like them. And I don't do that anymore. I don't look at people's content on Instagram anymore. I have Alyssa, who is our content manager, our creative director. She just got promoted to, I'm still remembering what her new title is. She's our creative project manager, meaning she has a hat in a lot of things. She does a lot of different things. But one of the things she does now is she'll go and engage on other accounts for me because the Instagram algorithm wants you to live on the Instagram app, but it's bad for my mental health to see what everybody else is doing. It's bad for my mental health to see, oh, they just hit 1 million followers and I feel like I'm inching along and, not moving as fast or not doing as well. And stepping away and just saying, I'm not going to engage. I'm not going to look at anybody else's content. I'm not going to this is not the game I want to play anymore has been so good for my mental health. So I really wish I had taken that approach earlier. I get that in the first year, you kind of have to see what's working for other people. You have to learn how to do it. You have to learn the algorithm. And there were a lot of people who helped me grow by sharing my content and allowing me to post on their page and then posting on my page and things like that. And that did help me. So I can't say I would have not had any partnerships, but where I messed up is everyone became a partner to me. Everyone had access to me via DMs. Everybody could come in and request something from me. And I was down to do it because I always felt like if I needed to grow, I needed to serve everyone else. And I'm not talking about my community. I'm talking about other finance creators. And soon enough, I was burnt out on helping other people reach their own successes as well. And then I started a second business with my friend Better Wallet. And we did an entire program where we were teaching finance creators how to do what we did and teach effectively and spread the word effectively and grow on Instagram and do all of these things. And it was wonderful for the connection and community. And I'm so glad I did that. But in terms of comparing myself and not feeling like I was doing enough, it probably wasn't the best thing for me. And this year, I've really decided to just stop. I don't scroll Instagram the way that I used to. If anything, I now have the personal account, which if you want to follow me on my personal account, it's the Chloe Daniels. Very creative. But my personal account, guess what the videos are that show up? I don't think I follow any finance people on my personal page. If I do, it's on accident. I'm my whole algorithm is cat videos and jujitsu. And that brings me joy and I enjoy that. But I now have this separation from my business where it's the Clo Bare account, that algorithm's different. That's going to be all finance content. That's going to be all business building. It's going to be, it's going to be my professional account. And I'm able to now separate it by no longer scrolling, no longer looking at other people's pages, allowing my content creative director to do that for me. And instead, I can exist. I can do what's good for me. I can take that mental space. So comparison is hard when you are a new entrepreneur. So the best way to get out of it is to try not to engage or provide boundaries in place while you're still new and you're still growing and you have to engage and you don't have the funds to hire somebody to do it for you. Give yourself boundaries, give yourself parameters. Say, I'm only going to do this for an hour a day, and then I'm going to put the phone down, because it is so easy to fall into the comparison trap and think you're not enough. But I promise you, you are on your own path. You're going to figure it out. It may be faster than some people, it may be slower than some people, but you are going to figure it out and it's going to work for you. So that is huge. And then kind of to tack on to this, I would say, listen to when something feels overwhelming or feels like it's not right for you. I last year really did not want to go to this financial conference that I was speaking at. I just felt drained. I felt like I was overstimulated. I felt like I had too many people who wanted like a piece of me, not to be all Britney Spears on us. And I just knew I was going to feel overwhelmed and exhausted. And it was a big drinking fest as well. And I had been toying with sobriety. And I went anyway, and I did not have a good time. And I'm not going this year. I had a good time for the people who I saw. Like, I got to see my best friends, and that part was great. But now I'm approaching it with, I'm only going to spend time with those best friends. I'm not going to go to a conference where there are 2,000 plus people who are amazing and super excited and have all that new energy that I had when I was first starting out. But now that I'm at a different stage in my business, I'm protecting my energy from that, because it's hard. It's hard constantly being on for 7 days or 5 days or however long you're there for. It's hard going and putting yourself out there and speaking and being this person who people do come to for advice. And even though I love it, and there's a part of me that really does love it, I have to listen to what my energy is saying I can do. And my energy is saying, girl, you got other things you need to focus on. This is not serving you in the way that you need to be served. This is not the investment that you need to be making of your time and your energy and your peace. Instead, go spend time with the people who truly bring you value, who truly fill your cup. And so now, me and the trauma squad, we're having a little private retreat in Portugal to see Delianne. And it's like the perfect solution, because none of us really wanted to go to this financial conference this year. And so we're not. We're going to hang out with each other. We're not using it as an excuse to not see each other. We're making it a priority to see the people we really, truly want. And that's why now I finally understand this idea of no new friends. Now, like saying no new friends in air quotes, because like, obviously, if I meet my best friend in my whole freaking life and we vibe so well, like, you're going to be in my life. That's like non-negotiable. I've made new friends here out in San Diego. But when I say no new friends, it's like, to me, that's saying I'm not accessible to everyone. I am not everyone's bestie. I am not your friend just because you want to be my friend. And I'm not speaking to the Clo Bare community here. I'm speaking to like professionals in my space. I had to pick and choose who I want to spend time with and who I want to prioritize. And that's what we all have to do the older we get. That doesn't mean there's not room for new people who truly vibe with us and truly connect with us in a deep and meaningful way. Hell yes to that. But when it comes to being available to everyone all the time, which is something I struggled with before, and I wanted to be everyone's friend in the space. I wanted to be on good terms with every person in the finance creator industry, but I literally just couldn't. My DMs were exploding. People were asking something from me every other day. I was anxious to open my DMs because people needed me, and I just couldn't do it anymore. And so for me, I think the tip in this is honor your energy, honor your focus. Don't feel like every opportunity that comes your way is the last opportunity you will ever get. Know in your gut. And if you're listening to your gut, it's really difficult for it to steer you wrong. Know if it's an opportunity that you really do want to say yes to. And if it's not, let it go. Let it go. I have said no to most things this year because I am all about protecting my peace this year and growing in the ways that I need. And I get to dictate that. I get to decide what are the ways I want to grow this year, not the random opportunities that come into my inbox that make me feel like this will be the only opportunity I'll ever get, right? Because it feels that way when you've worked so hard to get to a place where you are happy with your business and you are thriving and you are growing. It is so hard to get to that place. And it's so exciting to get to that place that once these opportunities start rolling in, it's just like, yes. And that's what I did in 2021 and 2022. But that's a very quick way to burn out and not have your energy protected. So that's kind of I hope it doesn't sound like I'm not grateful, because I am so grateful, but you have to get to the stage where you are protecting your peace. You are protecting your time. You're protecting your energy. Maybe in the beginning, you're saying yes to a little bit more than what you thought you were going to. Maybe you're saying a little bit more in the beginning because you're growing so quickly and you're excited about these opportunities. But the second that no longer feels like a fuck yes, then it's time to be like, all right, I'm going to take a chill pill. I'm going to say yes only to what I really want to do. And that's where I'm at now. So I wish I had done that a little bit sooner. I think in your first year, it makes sense to say yes to a lot of things. It makes sense to explore and figure out, what do you like doing? What are the things that bring you joy? What are the things that light you on fire in the best ways? And then year 2 or year 3, or once you've started establishing some of that success and you're at a good place, that's when you get to start being choosier and choosier and choosier. And don't be afraid to lean into that, because I promise you, the opportunities that come your way as you start to grow, as you start to become whoever it is you were meant to be and whatever this business was supposed to be, those opportunities are going to continue. And if you ever wanted to go out and pursue those opportunities, that's always an option too. So I ask myself, anytime like jealousy seeps in, or anytime I start to feel like, oh my God, they're growing so fast and I'm not as cool or good as them, I literally ask myself, Chloe, do you even want that? Do you want to be flying around the country all the time, doing speaking gigs and giving workshops? And as I asked myself that, I was like, no, it sounds exhausting, actually. Maybe someday, but right now, absolutely not. I don't want to do that at all. Even though I love travel, I love it in very short periods of my life. I love it in very controlled circumstances. I do not ever want to feel like I'm not in control of my schedule. And I feel like that doesn't sound appealing to me at all. So to recap, I hope this was helpful. If I was starting over, number 1, I would really ask myself, what kind of problem am I trying to solve here? Because that's going to give you a lot of clarity on all the other ways that you're going to show up. The second thing I would do is I would figure out, where am I going to show up? Where do I want this business to live? What am I going to do? Number 3, get a business coach. If a business coach is within your budget, if it's not within your budget, check out some resources where it's like somebody could be your business coach through the podcast or through books or something like that. Number 4, focus on one thing, one funnel, one product. That's it. Then once you get that right, then you can move on to the next thing. And then number 5, try not to compare yourself to other people's journeys. You know not anything about what they're going through, how they got to where they are, what resources they had that you didn't have. And if you want to stay in this for the long run, it's just going to drive you crazy, constantly trying to compare yourself to somebody else. And on that same vein, don't feel like you have to say yes to everything. Protect your peace. Know what is the end goal? What are you working towards? Because the yeses are going to be things that help you get to where you really want to be. Now, in the beginning, remember, it's okay to say yes to a little bit more than what maybe you want to be doing long term, but that's okay. It's all about experimenting and figuring out what you like, right? But at some point, start saying yes to the things that feel like the hell yes, not the things that feel like an obligated yes, because we don't need that in our life. We want to say yes to the things that we truly and completely love. And I'll add, in the whole vein of saying yes to things, I'll leave another podcast episode in the show notes of Hillman. And Hillman is the founder of the Idea of Life of Yes, and she's amazing. So highly recommend listening to some of those if this is something that interests you. I'll leave the Jeremy episode where he's talking a little bit about how he founded his business from Personal Finance Club. I'll leave the episode of my business coach coming on and talking about how to scale, which that was over a year ago. So we've got to bring her in as well, because we've had a lot of updates in the last year, and I'm a very different business owner than I was last year. And then after that, I'll also leave the Life of Yes, because Hillman's another incredible business owner who I've learned a lot from. So I hope you guys found this helpful and enjoyable. I appreciate you all. And I completely have forgotten about the whole giveaway. Like, I would like to continue to reward people and thank people who are leaving comments. So if you leave a comment on, and I can only see comments or reviews over an Apple review. So if you want to be entered to win, you gotta leave the review and the rating on Apple because I don't see them anywhere else. But leave a review, and then we will be doing at least once a month a giveaway for the comment of the month or the comment of the week, meaning like the review of the week. So, man, getting that knock on the door just scrambled my brain. So, we're going to get out of here, but rate, review, subscribe, and I will see you guys all next week. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Money Bear podcast. If you've made it this far, do us a favor, take 2 seconds, rate, review, and subscribe. It seriously means the world to me. And if you just take a sec to do that, I will appreciate you endlessly. And if you do, let me know on Instagram and I'll thank you personally. So, got that. And of course, since we were talking about anything financial on this show, please note that nothing on this show is intended as financial advice. I don't know you, unfortunately. And because of that, I cannot tell you what to do with your money. You got to work with a financial professional who knows your situation, who is preferably a fiduciary. And keep in mind that everything that we talk about on this podcast is for education and entertainment purposes only. It's all my opinion. So, there's that. If you want to see our full terms and conditions, head on over to the show notes. And while you're there, we've got free resources for you to get started on your money journey down in the show notes as well, including a free guide to help you with your budgeting templates and budgeting tutorials and investing 101, understanding the different accounts that are out there. All that good stuff is inside of my free guide, which is also available at thelazyinvestorscourse.com/guide. And if you're ready to take our relationship to the next level, I am also hosting a monthly investing class. And that investing class, you can find the times we're offering it this month at thelazyinvestorscourse.com/webinar. That link is in the show notes as well. And that's where you have the chance to meet me live and ask those money questions live. It's a good time. We've had over 20,000 people as of recording this join or register. And yeah, it's always nice to meet you guys. So I hope to see you there. Again, all that is available down in the show notes. So thank you again for coming and listening. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next week.